Now, in the studio, Abdul Malik Kwekubaku Jr. is editor-in-chief of the New Crusading Guide newspaper. He's our regular panelist on this show. We also have Ni Ama Akomfra, Director of Communications of the CPP. He's also a business consultant. We have Gabi Asari Ochri Dako. He's the CEO of Global Dynamics Limited. He's an international business consultant. And of course, you don't need to be told about that one. He's a politician with the New Patriotic Party. George Lowe is MP for North Dai.
I thought I'd retired.
Constituency. Okay, when you hold a press conference on that one, I'll make sure that it gets ingrained. George, good morning and welcome to the show.
Good morning.
Great to have you, gentlemen. Now, first of all, you know that utility tariffs have gone up. Briefly, I'd like to know how you think or feel about these tariffs that have been announced. As far as we know now, we know that electricity is going up by 6.54%, and water is also gone up by 4.54%. We've had our own Abdul Malik Kwekubaku Jr. say enough is enough. They keep repeating for us reasons that never get changed. There ought to be a massive uprising against the utility regulator, PURC, for taking Ghanaians for granted. The TUC has also come out to issue a threat of what I describe as yet another nation-crippling demonstration. If government does not intervene to reverse the prices. Ni, what do you say?
Good morning, Samson, to you and your team. Good morning to my fellow panelists. Of course, good morning to your listeners and your viewers. Can I just touch quickly on Ebola before I do this? I think that everybody obviously welcomes all that government is doing and must do. The bigger picture, however, is the approach by not just this government, but by African governments about the needs of Africans. You know, why do we continuously feel that somebody else must solve our problems for us? There's a continuous approach which says the British should not leave us, the Americans should not leave us, they should not abandon the region, they should come back and help us. You know, years ago when we needed a medical school, there were no buildings, no books, there were no even science teachers. But the CPP government moved boldly and you know, quickly got ourselves going. Within 7 years, we had our new doctors. Why can't we have an approach in Africa where we identify the best institution, the best doctors, raise the funds from among the nations in Africa, and give them the charge to find a cure for Ebola? You know, there are similar cases in the Middle East. In Asia at the moment, they've got this, what do you call it, this flu to do with the mosquito type bug they have there. You have the MERS in Saudi Arabia. None of them are saying, you know, to anybody. Their doctors are getting on with it. They are seeking to do, and continuously in Africa,
I don't get your point.
The point is that
because just a minute. I don't know what it is that we do practically in this country or elsewhere in the African countries that you're talking about that is not funded by
what I'm
someone
saying
else.
Is that a different approach is called for, which says to the world that Africa can manage its affairs. It's not that we never need help. Other countries need help, but it's a signal we send out continuously. We in Africa should continuously say to ourselves, we have this problem. We're going to find a cure for Ebola. Is anybody in Africa talking about finding a cure for Ebola within Africa? That's the point I want to make.
If it's already being done elsewhere, why do we duplicate the process?
It's not about it being done elsewhere. It's about our own, it's an African problem, first of all, before it becomes a world problem.
Okay.
And Africans should seek to look at it as we can find a cure, rather than somebody somewhere should come and help us. That's the point I want to make.
Maybe that will be for later. For now, it's an emergency situation, and you need... Kweku wants to say something briefly about that.
Really, you see, the ultimate desirability is what he's talking about. That should be our ultimate goal. Now, here we are confronted with an immediate challenge.
Correct.
So you ask yourself, what are the practical steps that you can take to enhance the possibility of reaching that ultimate desirability? So immediately here we are, the UN having passed this resolution, Ghana having become the center of operations. I think that's fair at this stage. But I agree with him that we should be looking beyond these things. We've been doing politics of immediacies for too long, short-term politics. So that's why we are incapable.
Why can't we
but the final point, for the final point, I'm a bit intrigued though that there were people who thought that the location of the UN Center of Operations here would be rather a negative. I find that a bit of a scaremongering.
You think about the benefits rather?
Yes, because look, even without it, we still stood the risks of possible infection or infiltration. But with it, I think it's better. And this is a more professional approach. They will be a little bit more careful and diligent in how they handle the issue.
And so again, our president was against and is against, banning flights from, affected countries. Maybe briefly about that one too, and then we'll move on.
I think on the UNMIR, my difficulty with it is not from a Ghanaian point of view, but from maybe a UN point of view, which is that it seems to me that you're going to have bureaucrats sitting in Accra, spending money that otherwise could have been used to stop people from dying. Because UN has operations in Liberia, in Cote d'Ivoire, in Mali, in Dakar, in countries that are even closer to the action. Now you come and set up a whole new system here. I understand initially they're looking at 50 million to spend. So from a Ghanaian point of view, it's probably good. You create jobs, rents, and the rest of it. But really, is it the best way of doing things? It appears a bit too
you have to have a center of operation that is detached.
Sometimes when you have a war, when you have a war, you don't go to the war zone. You fight from outside.
Cote d'Ivoire is even closer. So I'm just, and you have a system there. There's a structure. There's a UN.
Our system appears to be more stable.
But I'm saying that,
which is just come out of a war situation.
And then my other question is, I don't know how we do things in Ghana. It's a major thing. You're bringing in people initially 200 and more, and what? President doesn't even discuss it with Parliament. Is that how these sort of things are done? I don't know, but I think these are issues that
that's a legitimate
point. Some of the parliamentarians are angered about
yes,
that.
Yes, and then on the cholera issue, do you know that the last incident of cholera in the UK was in 1865?
The last incident?
Yes, reported incident of cholera in
1865.
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much. Let's move on from that point.
That's serious.
Now, maybe since you are here and you're a member of Parliament, is it a genuine concern that perhaps this ought to have come to the House?
No, ideally, there are, when the UN is doing something, you expect that there's some memorandum of understanding, some rules that must guide us and things like that. Normally, it's something that they will bring, even the establishment of an office, is normally something they will bring before the Foreign Affairs Committee of Parliament. They will look at it. They will do a recommendation to the House.
If not necessarily for an approval,
yes,
but information purposes.
It didn't happen because Parliament.
You can call them to come and sign.
And indeed, you would find out that immediately we came for the emergency recall, the issue came to the floor. Okay. What we had done as a Parliament was that, looking at the things that we had to do and all the exigencies on the ground, we have now mandated the two committees, committees on health and foreign affairs, to liaise with the ministers of those and then get the necessary.
When you say the issue has come to the floor, are you simply saying some MPs raise concerns, or that officially it's been brought to the attention of a notice of Parliament?
There are several ways of bringing things to the notice of Parliament. It can be officially being written to, or that members from,
and in this case, it's not official.
A member of the Health Committee, Dr. Matthew Prempeh, raised the issue on the floor. Sometimes, this is worked out within leadership. Sometimes leadership says that, look, you are on this committee.
But would you agree that it's misleading to suggest that the matter has been brought to the attention of Parliament?
Because the executive.
It's as if the executive has officially brought it there.
Did he make a statement?
Yes, he did.
Statement.
Yes, on the floor of the House. So officially, it's part of Parliament proceedings. Yeah. And Mr. Speaker has given directives.
Yeah. So now Parliament is seized.
Parliament is properly appraised with the issue.
But the president.
But initially, what we really wanted.
It didn't happen. Yeah, that was an omission.
Not the president.
The president disrespected Parliament.
No,
you signed us up to an international.
Normally, the president will not do that.
That was an omission.
Normally, it's the foreign affairs minister who would bring a communication
through the
to
She works for the president.
Yes, but I'm saying that generally speaking, as much as all parliamentarians would have laughed, possibly we should have been, and as part of the recall, we were going to have the ministers come to brief us fully on what was happening. But because of the exigencies of time and other things, Mr. Speaker has directed that both committees should meet with the ministers, get a briefing that they want, and then communicate that to the House. And the issue would be
and this was not going to happen if Matthew Opoku Prempeh had not gotten up to express
I'm saying
concern.
that, you see, the truth of the matter is that, you see, sometimes the Speaker does not initiate issues.
Okay, I hear.
Parliamentarians can be asked to make a statement.
All right.
On
They're curing the
Thank you.
mischief.
Yes.
There
So
was
I
mischief,
suppose,
but
well,
they
at
are
the close of
curing
the day,
it.
Parliament is appraised.
Sure.
Thank you. Thank you. So back to utility tariffs.
So, something I think many Ghanaians understand that the cost of electricity to them, the cost of water to them has gone up perhaps over 100% in last year, no matter what figures are being bandied about. And everybody also wants the PURC or the government to tell us that if you really are after full cost recovery, just tell the nation so that they understand that, whatever reason you come up with, this is your objective. Then everybody knows that this is a government that is out to simply impoverish Ghanaians, make them poorer, and they know how they're going to deal with this government. Because for how long? How long is an impoverished nation, an already impoverished nation, going to be faced with cost recovery? What is the limit to what ordinary Ghanaians can take when their salaries are not going up, when many continue to be unemployed, when many do not have the means to even pay for these things? And this against the background of the lack of service in the sector. How many people are going through a situation where they don't have electricity every day? They switch on their light, it's off. They go to work, having toiled all day. They come home for a little bit of relaxation, light off. How many people have had their taps not running for many months? And so we do not understand the continuous, and in many jurisdictions, if a water company or electricity company comes to you and says we need to raise prices, it's happening in Ireland at the moment where they want to raise prices of water. They want to charge people for water, and they are given the reasons why. And maybe there will be complaints about it, but ultimately people understand that they will see the end result. Now, how many years have we been going through a process where the service is deteriorating? The service continues to deteriorate. People are not receiving the service. And then we are being told that we are complaining too much. I think Ghanaians want rather to say to government that it is not you are complaining too much. You are stealing too much. You are stealing too much. It is that backdrop. It is the stealing too much that people, that is at the back of people's minds. Everybody may be willing to tighten their belt. Some may be willing to suffer whatever hardship, greater hardship, intolerable burdens, etc. But when they know that fat
Don't you think you are taking this argument discussion beyond its confines?
No.
You're talking about utility companies.
No, I'm saying that.
Yes.
I'm saying that.
Yes.
No, this is clear. The utilities companies have continuously raised prices. The service is not being delivered. The improvement is not being delivered. So to break it down, what I'm saying is, how long, first of all, should this situation continue? And the thoughts of ordinary people who know that their costs have gone up, they're not receiving the service, and what is happening within the country. So there's a direct link.
Are you aware, or you are not, that we have an automatic, price formula that is in place? And
I'm aware,
that is supposed to be what that is followed.
Yes, what I'm saying is that we're a country and we have a government. The government can decide what it wants for the people of this country. Of course, it can give any mechanism. It can put a mechanism in place. It can justify whatever reason for putting up prices. What I'm saying is, the reality is, people's prices have gone up over 100% in the last year. Services have deteriorated. Service is not being received. That is the fact of it.
We don't need the automatic pricing formula. We should throw it away.
We may need to scrap it, actually. Because
scrap it. Go back to the old times where we have had a lot of debt accumulated. The last time when the prices were announced, government had to come in to absorb about 25% of it.
Why is debt accumulating, Samson? Why is debt accumulating? And why is the service deteriorating at the time when debt is increasing? Where is the money going? So the backdrop is you cannot divorce the stealing and the thieving going on in the country from the failing service. There's a direct link. And why should the ordinary people of this country, who when they complain are told they complain too much, but they think they see stealing going on every day, why should they have to keep
let me tell you something.
This intolerable burden?
Let me tell you something. There's hope for you. The president, whilst he was, somewhere, was it in the U.S., spoke to the press, and the Nigerian, it's called the Something Watch newspaper. I'm just trying to bring it up here. I have it on my iPad. He spoke to them and assured that, in fact, Ghana was going to export electricity to Nigeria. Nigeria and other neighboring countries were going to get some electricity from Ghana. We know that at the moment our installed capacity is almost 3,000 megawatts. The NDC has a policy, Energy for All, which by 2016 is looking at giving us up to 5,000. And the president is making a promise that we intend to do that and to be able to supply others.
Something, you see, the problem with this government is that the promises grow by the day. Every day, a promise a day. But very, very thin in delivery. And everybody can see that when they wake up, they want the basics. You switch on you put on your switch, you get light. You turn on your tap, you get water. It's as basic as that. So all the promises about supplying electricity to Nigeria, I mean, the ordinary Ghanaian wants to wake up and get light. He wants to come home from work, switch on his TV, and be able to relax. Now we know that, having voted for NDC, your life is made worse. And all these promises does not cut the ice with anybody.
Just hold on briefly. Now, Gabi, this is what the president said as reported by the Nigeria Watch. Ghana to start exporting power to Nigeria in desperate bid to end electricity woes. And the president is quoted as saying, we have given priority to electricity generation in our country. We have prioritized energy in such a way that we want to become the hub for power production in West Africa. We want to generate electricity to the point that excess power can be exported to Nigeria, Ivory Coast, and other countries that have power deficits. He added that to achieve this dream, Ghana had secured export-import financing from China, as well as special fund from Abu Dhabi to commence a series of power generation projects, with a third hydropower dam project already at an advanced stage.
Something. If talk could keep the lights on, I wouldn't need a generator. And that's all we get from the president. And I think really, you focus on dealing with the domestic issue. Don't go out there promising Nigeria electricity. And every problem we have with electricity, even up to the point of utility prices, are self-inflicted. Why do I say so? In terms of generation, this 5,000 megawatts, that was a plan that was there before. He's talking about hydro dam. This same president, as vice president, went to Brazil to renegotiate an agreement, a loan agreement, for mini hydro dams and turn it into roads. Okay, this was way back in 2010, when there was a strategy to build these hydro dams. Secondly, this gas plant, a 12-volt gas plant, it took them to 2012 to start working on it. 2012, 4 years. And we started producing oil in when? 2010. But because they knew we had discovered oil, the partners of Jubilee started working on it in terms of what? Building FPSO. So we knew that all the gas was ours. Yet we were fighting over who should control what and who should control what not. It took us 4 years. Something that we could have built this plant within 2.5 years or so. It took us 4 years. And every day, you know how much that cost us? This is something that could have saved us about $700 million a year. So when you look at all that, Samson, it is difficult to see the president still going out there and given promises. In terms of these utility prices, go back to their so-called homegrown policy. It says there in paragraph 19, regular adjustment of fuel and utility prices to achieve better targeting and thereby reducing related subsidies to the barest minimum. So it is a government policy. It's not even IMF policy. It's a government policy. If you look at it, they've been, what, first quarter it went up, second quarter, third quarter, fourth quarter. So it's something that they are doing. And you know, even the way that they are doing it, it's not because it has to be done. It's because of their bad policies. And I'll explain that to you. For almost 2 years, they didn't increase the prices. Even though inflation was going, CD was dropping. Why? Because they had elections. After elections, they had what? Election petition. So they kept it until October. I believe it was September, October. Immediately after election petition, it shot up over 80%. Okay? Because they had piled it up. And then messed up businesses. People couldn't plan properly. After that, what did we have? We had inflation. What caused inflation? Because of deficit, bad economic management. What else? You had the city dropping. So if you look at the factors that have led to all the increases that we've had, it has absolutely nothing to do with anything else but bad economic management. Because you have inflation if you don't manage your macroeconomic policy well. You have the CD dropping if you don't manage it well. And these are the factors that are leading to it. And of course, for the fact that we haven't been able to get the gas working. And that is costing us money every single day. You know, so at the end of the day, and you can still go, rather than apologizing, you go out there to say that you are going to supply gas, electricity to Nigeria.
Well, why is it
insulting to Ghanaians? It's insulting to Ghanaians.
It's not insulting.
Please.
Someone looks at it from this perspective. This is our president who is supposed to inspire hope.
Inspire
supposed
hope.
to tell you about.
You can't inspire my electricity to come on. You are going to inspire hope elsewhere. I mean, please, let's not joke with governance. You have an issue back home. I mean, I got home last night. The lights were off. You know, and it's happening everywhere. Was it this week that we heard a woman's TV got blown? And then what happened to her? She got burns over 70% and she's dead. This is how expensive it is. These, you know, I think that I'm not necessarily for subsidies. I really, because if you look at the small businesses like barbers, you know, hairdressers, they are all suffering. You know, and people are prepared to pay for it if you can supply them the electricity.
I see. So you don't have a problem with the increases.
I'm not. No, but you see, the increases are not because of any other reason, but because of how they have mismanaged the country. Now, you know, inflation.
Sorry.
Inflation, the CD, and of course the fact that they haven't been able to supply us with the gas. So these are all the factors. So it means thermal is more expensive. You know, so you spend more to get crude oil to fire the electricity, and that's what we are suffering from. George, and I don't think you should go out there and go and brag about supplying electricity.
George,
to Nigeria,
in 2010,
well, you can't even supply
when the increases were done, electricity 89%, water 36%. This is the promise of the PURC. I quote, and they said that they were going to ensure that consumers have value for money through improvement in the quality of services. This is as far back as 2010, when the increases went by 89% and 36%. Again, in July 2014, when we had 12% for electricity and 6.1% for water, we were told similar promises. In April, that was done in the April for the second quarter, which was pushed to the third quarter. What people don't understand, again, even before that, 2013, there was 78% and 52% rise in October. What people just can't understand is that the promises of improvement are never met. The situation only gets bad.
Thank you very much, Samson. And let me just use the opportunity also to say Barakat Salah to my very good friends, the Muslims, and indeed ask them to pray for this nation. and I believe they have done that. And of course, to everybody who is watching. Samson, you see, when these arguments come up about utilities, increments, and what the president has said, I would have wished that we begin to look at these things for what they are, and not necessarily go on the tandem or go off into a little politicking. It doesn't help us. Because you see, these are essential services that ordinary Ghanaians need for their basic survival. Samson, I do not believe, and I do not think for a minute, that anybody is pretending that Ghanaians should go up with white handkerchiefs saying that, hooray, there is increment in utility services. But, Samson, what we are saying is that, one, as a people, let me put it that way, or as a state, we had agreed to a certain automatic adjustment formula.
Right.
We have put it in the domain of the PURC. That, look, we are putting you up. You are supposed to study what is happening. You are supposed to engage the industry players. You are supposed to engage all the relevant sectors. And based on your own rules that you've set, if tariffs must go down, reduce it. If you think that they must go up, and I'm happy that all of us have agreed that, look, people are prepared to pay. I am the first to admit that the challenge there is that we are not getting the level of services that we think we deserve. And it is a legitimate right of every Ghanaian to say or to demand for optimum service. Yesterday, one of the telephony companies called me on an online survey about their services, and I told them what I thought. I thought of their service, you know. And so I do not have any problem at all if Ghanaians think or complain. Because the reality is that all our energy sector players are not operating at optimum.
You don't have a problem when people are complaining?
No. I haven't said I don't have. I'm saying that. No, Gabby, please.
He's saying he does
I am
not
saying
begrudge
that
them.
I don't begrudge anybody for complaining. It is their right to complain.
Are you also complaining?
That's what you
Of course, I complain sometimes too.
Okay.
Because sometimes, I mean, Gabby said he got home yesterday to light off. But who says that anybody wants to get home with light off? Even if you know all the problems, it does, unstabilize you a bit. But the reality on the ground is that, is there something being done about solving the problem? And that is where the president's statement comes in. You see, the president, even in a manifesto, has said that by a certain year, incrementally, it is my intention to increase availability of energy to such an extent that we become possibly a net exporter of the commodity. Does the president work the stock? Yes, because we were not at 3,000 when he took over. Gradually, we are, even today, Sen Power has secured some facility to ensure that they complete pool.
In fact, I approximated to 3,000
yes.
because our capacity, as we know, is 2,846
yes, because of all this
something. And that alone, the VRA contributes up to 75%.
Yes, and we also know that several other projects are going on, all in an effort to achieve this thing. So if the president is saying that we even want to work so hard, so much so that we look forward in the future to being the next exporter of electricity power to our neighboring sister country. The president hasn't said anything wrong.
Gabi says that sounds insulting.
No, because it's been in the public domain, because it's in his manifesto that he presented to the people of Ghana. So indeed, the president hasn't said something he hasn't said before. In any case,
you go out and brag.
No, please. In any case, the reality on the ground is that we have challenges. And the challenge this that we have is not as simple as Gabi wants us to believe.
Nigeria,
George, wait a minute.
Nigeria is already doing 4,000 when the stations are at full capacity. Mm-hmm. And so I don't get it. What are we trying to do? George, we who are doing a lot less are seeking to help them. And we promise them this at an international platform.
Samson, please. When I stepped, the first time I walked into Nigeria was in 2000, February 2000, when I was invited to deliver a paper on youth, the future of youth in Africa. They had energy crisis, the year 2000. 14 years down the line, look at the capacity you're talking about. What I just want to say is that we are doing what we can do within our capacity. But I am saying that we need to continue to work hard at these things on daily basis. And that is what the president has promised. That look at us. And indeed, go and look at the coverage of electricity in Nigeria. It is not up to 60%. We are doing 75% or more.
George, very quick.
So please, no, when you were talking, I was very...
I want to ask you.
No, you have the right to ask. Something is the host. Okay. You see, we need to be practical and we need to be candid in the way that we are handling this situation. We have a problem with an energy sector. We cannot pretend about it. The president has not pretended about it. Nobody has pretended about it. The good thing is that we are strong.
Another showdown.
Yes.
If government doesn't intervene to reverse the increases.
All I'm saying is that the TUC is an important player in this economy. If they have issues, there's a way to resolve them. They had issues before. They engaged government and something came out. I am not saying that they shouldn't have issues. All I'm saying is that yes, we all have issues because everybody will want their life to be better. Indeed, the bourgeoisies like Gabi in the system even want a better life. Near Confra and everybody else wants a better life. Even with what they have, they will want more. So it is not against anybody's principle at all that we want to get it better every day.
But you, the government, you are frustrating it. That's the problem.
No,
Gabi, saying that
Gabi, I agree. Please, Gabi,
to do their business because you can't
Gabi,
and you tax them as
you
well.
see, Gabi, what I'm saying is that,
Gabi,
what I'm saying is that, you see, as a human
that you are doing,
enterprise,
you're doing what your capacity,
you know, as a human enterprise,
can get
we will.
Is this your capacity?
Gabi, hold
we
on.
will not, but we believe that whatever we are providing.
Do you think the increases are high? The rates are high?
Comparatively, I think that these ones are a bit lower than what you use in
okay.
other
what do you say? What do you say to the TUC? Maybe I should move on now to.
He's dying to ask. Otherwise, he may die.
Hold on. Kweku, do you see the TUC playing hypocritical here, double standards, because they agreed to the earlier roadmap? We know that when the increases were done, the president set up the technical committee. The technical committee came up with a roadmap, and part of the roadmap was that this should be done piecemeal in this manner. And the TUC agreed. Now it's being done, and TUC says, we're going to hit the streets again.
Because there's a missing link. Deficiency.
Absolutely.
Quality supply. Those things that we are promised, even when they were doing the piecemeal adjustment, which almost always appears to go upwards. In many instances, when the adjustments are being done upwards, we are told that this is to enable the utility services to give us efficient and quality service. When you have a situation where there's load shedding, and even when there's no load shedding, you have consistent disruption of power supply, so that you have, in a situation that is so distressing, and within that distressing environment, you are told that, oh, because of economic factors, so and so and so, we're operationalizing the, what do you call it, the formula.
Automatic adjustment.
Who listens to that? We don't hear. You may be talking out there, I won't listen. Even if I'm listening, I don't hear. You see, that is what is going on. Because of that consistent lack of ability to provide quality service, all the reasons given, even those that are tenable, nobody is digesting them. We've reached that stage. And it's at the stage where consistently we are subjected to load shedding, load management, or disruptive supply of power. And this is the time you want to convince me that, oh, because of economic conditions, because of so and so and so, let's adjust upwards so that we can help the utilities to actually provide efficient service. Nobody will listen to you. I concede that there's an investment deficit area that the state, for that matter government, must deal with. over the years, I've seen enough documentation to show that some efforts have been done in that respect. A lot. The question is whether we do value for money audit of even those things and see if indeed that investment or those investments that we've been putting in there are working or not. Look, it's the voice of frustration that I expressed or articulated the other time, I think last Wednesday, when I said that, look, it's about time we generate a certain mass activist consumer response to this thing. Policy of assault. People are tired. People are hungry. Okay? And I wasn't targeting only the PURC. The utility service providers are part of the equation. Government has a fair share. Gabi is elaborated on those things. And it comes back to the investment deficit I'm talking about and policy initiatives. I've always said that the gas area, we delayed unduly. I've always considered that it was government's right to decide to change whatever it had come to inherit. That's his right. You can't challenge that. But in so doing, there were time frames, timelines that we missed entirely. And we're still waiting for a 12.
So what do we want them to do, the utilities and the PURC, what do you want them to do? Some of the factors that are considered to raise the prices include, you know, the dollar rate and also inflation, so to speak.
I don't manage the dollar, do I?
And despite the fact that they would also understand that increases will also affect producer and consumer price inflation, a jump in tariffs in electricity will also lead to a raise in the cost of everything else.
Samson, there are countries in this world who have resolved these problems fundamentally. We've been tackling this in the last 30 years. What's wrong with Ghanaians? What is it that is making us incapable of tackling these things so that we are always subjected to this recycled, bogus, and fraudulent explanations? Nobody's listening any longer. There are countries, even in the third world, so-called, who have resolved these problems. But here we are, in spite of all the talk, no action is going in the right direction.
And you say your way forward.
I read the TUC
is
statement.
your suggestion?
The TUC is hinting. They said the TUC General Secretary Kofi Asama told Joy News, Francis Alban, Friday that over 500,000 members of the Workers' Union are very likely to resist the new hikes. And he indicated that they were meeting to take some action and things. They could. I support them in principle. But I'm beginning to think that we should have an integrated approach. The TUC should find ways and means of coordinating with other civil society groups and Kofi Kapito's group and all those groups for us to have a sustained activist consumer response.
Is that a solution?
It's just part of the solution. It's part of the solution. And it is not just a question of street actions or staying away from work. Into a policy or could come in. Even legal options. Look, do you know they destroy our equipment?
Absolutely. Mine were destroyed.
They destroy equipment. We must develop that culture where there can even be situations of, you are a lawyer, I don't understand these things, class actions and all those things. Something. Because perhaps nobody does that, or we don't do it sufficiently, or vigorously, or consistently. There's a loophole out there. There's a gap. People are insensitive.
Okay.
So those who we have entrusted, look, don't they get their salaries every month?
Certainly. Your question, and then we'll
George,
move on.
You said that government is doing everything. My simple question is, given the situation where you have an automatic system which is escalating prices all the time and a declining service, do you not pause to review that situation? How do you continue with a driverless train which is just escalating prices, a declining service, and government is not doing everything? Government should stop.
Industries.
Look at a situation where prices are just rising rampantly because it says it's not in its control, and a situation where the service is not being delivered, and decide what are we now going to do.
But when we had a 70% tariff, 60% tariff agreement, rise, as it were, government intervened and gave 25% reduction.
Just a SOP, which was reversed very quickly soon after Christmas. I think that the question to George is this: what is government going to do given this disconnect? A rising, escalating price, a declining service. We can't continue on that situation.
Yes. You see, Nyagova, government, of course, because government has consistently done what you are doing by looking at the totality of the problem. Look, the problem
halt the price rises.
No, the problem on our hands. It is not. No, it is not simply about the fact that somebody. Somebody.
You asking a question. Please allow him to answer.
Somebody sitting in a room and deciding that let it go. A lot of things are taken into consideration. Like Kweku, I agree with you 100% when you talk about the fact that we should, as people, demand quality service from the utilities, from the PURC. But you see, we must demand these things, but we must also understand the challenges that they have. I'm happy you are saying that for 30 years, for 40 years, we have been on this road. That is why I am happy about the president saying that, in fact, to move forward on any of these things, we have to realign the whole economy of Ghana. Yes. And that is a fact. And that is why he has started some of the things that he has put in the pipeline. But if you have a deficit, Gabi, you cannot be operating at optimum.
Okay.
You cannot. It cannot happen.
Thank you.
Thank you. Some efficiency.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. That yes. So the efficiency will come, but it may not manifest itself in a year or two.
You know why it's difficult to blame the service providers? Because they are not getting money as profit to invest in improving the services. They are getting money to meet costs. Rising costs.
No, Gabi, there's an outlay of investment that are made over the years too. What happened to those investments?
Let me make my point. I get your point, but I'm just saying that, look, the difficulties they are facing now is the cost of production. You know, and if you have difficulties with the cost of production and the money's increase that you are demanding, it's not really for investment.
Let me pick a few of the thoughts of our listeners and viewers. Let me pick a few of the thoughts of our listeners and viewers. Ibrahim Kopa in Tamale says that the government is preoccupied with issues of Ebola, forgetting the more deadly disease is cholera, which is killing innocent Ghanaians. The government has never had its priority right. After all die be die. Ni Anan Suman in London, right, listening to your chat with the minister, he stated that the UN official actually wanted the sighting to be in Senegal. Okay, what on earth motivated the president to insist on Ghana as the option? Is it the little residual gadgets that would be left for us, or the usual love your neighbor than yourself attitude of us? And S. Opoku is saying that I strongly disagree with Dr. Bampo's endorsement of the establishment of the UN Center for Ebola in Ghana. In the 21st century, Ghana continues to battle with cholera, and he is encouraging the center to be set up in Ghana. What happens when there is Ebola outbreak in Ghana while doctors are on strike? Uncle James in Zebula says the politicking about Ebola logistics center in Ghana is not helpful. Ebola is real. Let's focus on the positive. Zion in Wa says, Samson, we all know that cholera is as a result of filth and debt, and as a nation, we are not managing these debts very well. That's why I say sack those who are asked to manage if they don't manage them well. That's the point. Okay, Ibrahim Kopa, you again. I'm not able to take your message. Now, a few more here on my Facebook wall, and this one from Afipungu in Simon. If I didn't get your name right, please forgive me. It says something I don't get it right when the minister says we are not at risk. The movement of these health workers to and fro between Ghana and infected countries poses a serious threat to Ghana, considering how fast the disease is spreading. Nana K says, Samson, can you ask the doctor if indeed Ghana is ready if there is a suspected case of Ebola? I'm sure you sent the question before the Dr. Bampo answered it. Thank you very much. And Kwejo and Sasa Shrakud, the very final one, says, Samson, I'm worried about this UN Ebola thing, but they are here. What can we say? This government wants Edufudi, Papa. But they remember the account phrase. Okay, ope oba Edufudia. No idea. When you sem Edufudi. Sorry if I didn't get it right. I pray the Lord God protect us. Thank you very much for those messages.